Hi everyone, it's Emma and Shannon from Arise, and today on the podcast we're going to be talking about Christian writing with integrity. This is a new class that we have on offer in the coming year, but this is so much more than just a class. There's a whole kind of worldview and lots of ideas about writing and plagiarism, and all in a culture and a world where AI is growing with increasing influence in our lives and in the lives of our teens. Shannon, can you tell us a little bit about where the need for this course is? Why Christian writing with integrity?
Well, what we're finding is that everywhere we turn, there is easy access to everybody else's material or computer generated material, and that we as home educators have a responsibility to teach our children how to not only write well, but also to write properly and give honor where and credit where credit is due and not plagiarize. And just understanding that, it's easy to find bootlegged things, if you will, whether that's albums or movies or books or whatever, and not pay for them. Just the idea of not paying
Mhm.
for the the royalties, if you will, for a movie or something like that. And this is that it takes that idea, but looks at it into the act of writing,
Mhm.
and not taking other people's ideas and thoughts and making them your own or calling them your own,
Yeah.
but honestly being able to learn how to do the research, learn how to properly cite from other places where you have gained your information, and give credit where credit is due. So that's part of what that's like the accuracy and the integrity together.
Mhm.
So the course is called Writing with Christian Integrity. So with truth and honesty, right? As well as with academic accuracy. So that's where it's learning how to do the research, learning how to cite sources
Mhm.
and that type of thing, and beginning it at a much younger age than probably you or I had that course.
Yeah.
I think I maybe had it in late high school. And certainly it was part of the scramble at
Mhm.
first year university to figure out how to do it the way they wanted it done.
I don't think I ever had that course because I went the sciencey track.
Oh,
So
you went sciencey track. Well,
yeah,
see,
this
I had the
is
sciencey track too, so I was torn between both
mhm.
because different departments wanted it done a different way. So I had two different ways: the sciencey way for journal
Yep.
articles and that kind of thing, as well as like Harvard or Chicago style for how they wanted all my other papers to be and that kind of
Yeah.
thing.
I think
So go ahead.
I think when just to back on to something you said, I think one of the things that perhaps even as adults we don't really we've not really grasped. I don't think I fully grasped the full implications, but it's certainly not our teens. That when we're using, like, say, somebody's put a question to ChatGPT to help with their homework, and they're stuck, and they get an answer, or they're writing an essay and they're like, "Oh, I need some help to get started, get the juices flowing," kind of thing, and they ask ChatGPT. That generates information from somebody else's material.
Right.
These kind of big language AI models, they're harvesting lots of sources on the web to churn out the answer. And
Right.
so, in its very nature, well, if you copy and paste that, you're actually, apart from the fact you've not, that in its most extreme form, you've done no work, you've just asked the bot to do it for you.
Yeah.
But even in its most innocent form, it's very easy to then slip into plagiarism and you don't even realize you've done it because
Yeah.
you've not intentionally went to this website, copy and pasted somebody's work that you know is somebody's work, or went to a textbook or like one of an encyclopedia or something, copy and paste it verbatim, put it in as your own work, and that is easy to recognize
Yeah.
as being plagiarism. But this is so it's this subtle kind of idea of plagiarism slipping in, and we're looking to train at an early age so that this doesn't become habits that grow. So when our teens are then at university and they've spent years now using AI to help them with their work, that then it stings because they're then getting pulled up that they've plagiarized and they've not even recognized it
And they don't
as
know they're doing it. Yeah,
plagiarism.
because they don't, it's been normalized.
It has been
So
normalized.
a couple things I want to touch on with what you said, and that is there's this real big problem within citing. How do you cite AI? If I were to
Mhm.
ask you that question, would you know how you would cite AI?
Probably not.
Probably not. And I'll be honest, I didn't either. And that's the big question because you can't really cite
Hmm.
AI because if you go and ask the same question on a different day or even to a different Gemini versus ChatGPT or Claude or whoever you're using or whatever
Hmm.
the newest one is, you're going to get a different answer. So it might be slightly different. But
Hmm.
the problem is it's like citing a conversation that's not been recorded. It's just you and the other person. Is it, how do you cite that? You just say, I was talking to so and so, you put it in quotes and
Yeah.
you put the day and time. So that's literally for those entities where using AI is okay within research or within writing or whatever at some high collegiate or academic level, they literally have to list the question that they ask, all the prompts they gave, what the answers were, and pull it all in to a cited reference document, essentially
Wow.
because it is pulling. And I'll be honest, when I looked at what it was like, it's not worth it. All the hoops you have to jump through to prove that that's what you used, you
Hmm.
should have just spent the 25 minutes reading the text and gotten the same thing, you know? And so that's where it's like there are places where it's such a gray area and that's really what we want to help
Hmm.
families figure out for themselves and then pull into what it means in the academic arena, and it's certainly for what it means at Arise. So this course, the Writing with Christian Integrity and Academic Accuracy, it's a single semester course that is for students that are like KS3 plus, so 11 to 13 or older,
Hmm.
even if they're taking or have taken other English classes or other writing classes,
Hmm.
because this is specifically focused more on identifying there's 10 different ways to plagiarize. I didn't know that
I
before I
didn't
built the
either.
course. And there are 10 different ways.
Hmm.
And then there's the AI piece and
Hmm.
figuring that out. But the first couple of weeks, first 2 weeks, I think, of the course is the students working with their families to create a family honor code and AI and plagiarism policy.
Hmm.
That's for their family. And that's where we are wanting to come together because it really is up to the family. We're there to support the family, but we're also there to train the students.
Can I
And
just
so go
like
ahead.
I think that's really interesting that that's the first 2 weeks
Yeah,
because we want to also recognize that every family has a different line of
yeah,
where they sit with AI.
yeah,
And so this isn't even us saying your family need to use AI in this way because this is the right way. That within this creating a family policy or a family culture around AI, you're thinking about your own family,
yeah,
your own ways of using it, your own worldview on artificial intelligence,
yeah.
and that will look different for every single
It absolutely will.
family.
Absolutely.
And even like we've discussed it, Shannon and I have different views on
We
AI.
do.
We have different perspectives. I will honestly say I have never logged on to ChatGPT. I've never put anything in it. I've never used it. That is my
Yeah.
that is my stand.
And I've seen families make the choice to use it because they didn't understand instructions given to a
Mhm.
student elsewhere, or there's
Yeah.
a learning difference that requires a little bit more um, fine tuning
Mhm.
or it's something that make it
Mhm.
more approachable, whatever the subject is,
Yeah.
for a student to learn something they're really interested in that maybe it's
Mhm.
really technical. They don't understand all the technical terminology. They can't find a resource accessible to them that, so they go that route. So there are definitely, I find that there are places where it is valuable. And I find that there are places where it's like, no,
Mhm.
absolutely not.
Which
Um,
is which is interesting because I'm now I get challenged by my for my own dogmatic approach because I see other people
yeah,
using it in valid ways and helpful ways in their own kind of personal
yeah.
context. And so that is that honoring and recognizing the needs in each individual
Yeah.
family.
And I think that it provides, especially for you and me and for Arise as a whole, I'm actually glad that we're on different sides of the spectrum of that because it helps us bring a really
Mhm,
healthy balance to what should it be
mhm,
for Arise as an organization and then how can we come alongside any family and support them where they're at with the use of AI?
mhm.
Plagiarism, that's another thing. And
Yeah,
so there are places where AI could be seen as plagiarism, and then there's places where it's not plagiarism, it's truly a helpful tool
yeah.
of understanding. But it's when you take it and push it that too far
Mhm,
and say, it's my work. I wrote this. I did this all on my own
mhm.
and I'm signing my name to that. And that just goes to then that's plagiarism.
Yeah.
And that's the difference.
And it's
Um,
again that underlining. There's places where a student will know they have just cheated on it. They've used AI to do their
yeah,
homework. And there's no kind of grey area. But
yeah,
it's recognizing that slippery slope where there'll be students who are using AI in legitimate ways. And it's that slip because it's so easy to slip into
yeah,
plagiarism
it
with
really
AI.
is. So part of where that requires more effort on the parents' part is to provide access to really good resources
Mhm,
that are not AI generated. That perhaps we go old school, they aren't even online. So part of that within the course is the students will need to have access to books and magazines and that type of thing, but also the internet. I'm not ruling out the use of the internet
mhm.
for research, not by no means. It's still really valid, but we have to be careful that we're going to actual physical real sites that you can cite that this is where I went, not asking AI the answer to your question or to write a paragraph about.
We've spoken a lot about plagiarism. But there's another that this kind of integrity part of writing. But we also mentioned back this idea of writing with Christian integrity and accuracy. There comes a point of truth. Where
Yeah.
does that come in with AI and writing in that integrity way and honoring truth?
Well, I think for me that comes with learning how to cite properly,
Mhm,
with whatever subject or topic that you're working on and teaching our kids that. If you're memorizing a Bible verse, you give this the reference, right? That's part of what you're memorizing. You're not just memorizing a chunk of scripture, but it has a place within a chapter, within a book, with that type of thing. And so that's actually a type of citation. When you give it, if you're quoting a Bible verse, you generally will give the citation of the scripture reference with it. And so it's teaching that piece of it as well. What we end up doing in this class, the students only write one paper, okay? And depending on their level of writing, it could be a paper that is 5 paragraphs. So three body paragraphs and an introduction and a conclusion, plus citations, or it's going to be longer, 7 or more paragraphs, um, up to 1,000+ words for older students because that's where they're at. But the key is to learn. First is the disrupting plagiarism. That's the first part of the course. Learning what it looks like, learning how to identify it, and then learning the next piece of the course is planning a topic to write about that's of interest to them. They can use it for another class if they need to,
mhm,
but also just this idea of taking them through how do you plan? How do you do research? How do you find the truth? When you look at 3 or 4 different articles or resources, they all are going to give a slightly different approach to the topic and which support your focus. That's what you need to glean, and that's what you need to then learn how to do some note taking. So when you're reading these sources, you're taking notes and then you're taking your notes and then writing your paragraphs from your notes.
Mhm.
not looking at the original copy, the original source text, but just from your notes. So we're teaching the note taking as well. And that really builds on what we do with the year one and year two of um, KS3 grammar and writing because there's note taking in there. So this is taking it that next step and applying it to any other topic from a little bit of a different approach. It's not necessarily going to use the IEW approach, although we'll use that later in the same class
Mhm.
for those that do the full year with me on that. But so we take them through the planning and then they write the paper and then they do like it's almost like it's a mini dissertation. So don't get scared of that word because it's really just a 5 or 7 paragraph paper. But the goal is that they do a defense. They come and they talk about it. So the last 2 weeks of the class are spent presenting the paper, so reading their paper and being able to answer questions asked
Mhm.
by the tutor or the students. So they need to know their subject.
Yeah.
And when they know their subject, then you know that they did the work.
Mhm.
If they're waffling, it's because they haven't internalized things enough because they've not put the effort in for the subject that they're writing about.
Yeah.
Or they didn't do it at all. They did plagiarize or use AI or whatever, and they can't speak to it. And so
But
that's really the key.
which is really important to understand that this is the way that universities
Yeah,
are moving.
yeah,
So universities are working really hard to AI proof their courses, and
yeah.
this idea of having to present and answer questions in a interview type
Hmm.
setting is becoming more and more normal in universities.
Yeah,
So this part of the reason for having this class is to prepare our students, regardless of if they're English people who are going to go down that kind of language arts track or science people who are going to go down the science track.
yeah,
It is really a valuable course for any student, regardless of where they're heading and what trajectory they're
yeah,
heading in, because it's that idea of being able to note take, research. It's a bit a learning class.
yeah.
Um,
It really is a nuts and bolts practical class that the goal is that we kind of open Pandora's box on the
mhm,
topic, teach and disrupt it, and teach how to identify it, and then teach how to do it properly. Because once students know the truth and know how to write properly, then they're held accountable to that because
mhm,
they know how to do it and they can use it judiciously within their family culture as to how they move forward into other classes with Arise or elsewhere.
mhm,
And then they're well prepared, and it's no big surprise when they get to higher education or into the workforce and they need to present something and be able to support it because and back it up with dialogue or with where'd you find the research that they're not caught out with
mhm,
that and they know that they can stand rightfully on the work that they've done
mhm,
and that is original to them and that kind of thing. So it's really interesting too because this idea of defending your dissertation is always been a master's or PhD level idea.
mhm,
And so they're just taking that same idea and really simplifying it. I don't want students stressing out that they're going to have to defend what they wrote. I want them, though, to understand
mhm,
that we will ask questions. It is part of it. And it's also, um, there's a part of where if they realize, you know what, I didn't quite do that right. I forgot to cite so and so, or I accidentally got off on a sidetrack and I ended up in an AI place or something like that. Then it's like, okay, well, then swing back around, go do your proper research, come back with an edited
mhm,
paragraph, whatever it is, and fix that. So learning how to edit their work and produce um, a report for an ultimate culminating assignment that is with Christian integrity and the academic accuracy and that type of thing that we can actually go and look for the sources they cited and they exist. Unlike we've all had it happen. Well, maybe you haven't, Emma, because
No.
you've never done the reports. But you go and you click through to find well, what was AI's source on this? And it's like it's nothing. It's all gobbledygook or whatever.
Yeah.
So teaching them that, because what do we want? We want children and we want our future generations to be able to think critically, to be able to know how to do research,
Mhm.
to be able to see truth, and suss out that which isn't truth and understand how to do that. And this is the building blocks of that. So when they get into the higher level classes with us or beyond, they already have those skills working. It's going to work alongside that logic class or that apologetics class or literature analysis or sciences or history. It goes into all of them.
Yeah.
So it really is valid for the time that we live in,
Mhm.
as well as the age of our children, that we teach them well and diligently in this topic from a young age so that it goes with them into their future.
What age of student would be suitable for this class?
So I'm just going to look at the course here and see what I have said. It's best suited for 11 to 15-year-olds, and that's the KS3 plus. So
Hmm.
they need to be able to write 1 to 3 paragraphs already. So if they've taken my KS3 year one class, they are right in the right place
Hmm.
for that. In fact, the KS3 year two grammar and writing class starts with this first semester.
Hmm.
And then in second semester, we move on to finishing up
Yeah.
the workbook that we started the previous year.
So
So go
if
ahead.
families are signing up for your KS3 year two English writing and grammar class, this will be a part of
This
that
is
class.
part of
So
it.
you
Yeah.
don't need to sign, you wouldn't sign up for
You don't
both of
sign up
those.
twice. Yeah. But if anybody who's already ahead of that in
Mhm.
writing, or maybe there's been some things that happen and there needs to be a course correction in how to write well and with honor
Mhm.
and integrity, then bring them in. So if you have a student that is older, that's fine. Absolutely fine. We're happy to have them. And that's where we'll just scale it a little bit. The younger students are going to do a little bit shorter papers. The older students will be expected to do a little bit more within where they're at academically. So yeah. And then we'll offer it, it'll be offered both semesters.
Mhm.
I don't have a time for second semester yet, but it'll be on the website when we have that figured out later in the year.
Yeah. So if it'll be this coming year, or if you want to hold off after
Yeah. Yeah,
after
it'll
Easter.
it'll be offered in September and then in January. Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Shannon, for explaining all of that. We'll put all the links down below,
Yeah.
and if again, as always, any questions, just drop us an email at arise@arisehomeeducation.com.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll see you.